We judge, bro. Okay. Never mind. In today's episode, we are going to discuss about forgiveness.
Good topic.
I don't think it's a topic that a lot of people discuss about because
It's a heavy one, nonetheless.
it's especially if you're Asian, forgiveness is not something that is really like discussed or
Talked
talked
about.
about. Yeah, a lot of times people just brush it off and just speak out with it. So
And it's not really healthy, in all honesty.
yeah, true. That's why. And another thing is like, I don't know, maybe it's just me. Like, I find that I can forgive people better than most people. I feel like in a lot of cases where people will just be like, oh, so triggered by why they're doing this, why people are doing this, why this person did this, and then I'll just be like, I'm pretty sure they have their reasons. It's fine, And then they'll be like, no, blah 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 blah, and I'm just be like, oh my god.
I really couldn't be more bothered.
I mean, first of all, why do you forgive? I think let's start there first.
That's
Why
good,
do you
yeah.
forgive? For me, the thing is, when I was young, I hold a lot of grudges. I'm very grumpy very very grumpy, always angry, always sulking, just all the negative. It's like red, totally red, all my emotions, and I find it's like very tiring. I don't know if it's like as I age or something, but for me, I find out that it's really tiring to stay angry, to stay mad, to stay upset and everything. So it's like, bro, let me just save my energy. Maybe. Yeah, I guess this is for me. Maybe I just grew out of it.
I think it applies to a maturity concept as well, and it can tie into stoicism. It's like it's really something that's beyond your control.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah,
what's
that's
something that is within your control, you can
Yeah.
forgive, understanding it, as long as it doesn't cross your boundaries, and that you are like, you're like, this is fine. I can reason with this situation. I'll forgive you.
I mean, most of the situations, most of the times, more often you'll find that that things happen because they are not within your control or that person's control.
Indeed.
So even if the thing about life is just that there's so much variables.
Oh my god.
Jeez. There's just so much variables in life. So you can't really say for sure that it's your fault. It's my fault. And like, and also please life is so short. Why you spend
Half of it grumpy.
half of it grumpy, half of it, keeping all the, what do they say? In Chinese it's called 仇啊.
仇.
What?
The vengeance.
The vengeance, yeah. Why I want to keep all the grudges and
Ah.
vengeance and everything? Like, come on. You could have done better, right? You could have spent the energy on something else. Like they say, I'm pretty sure you've heard this before. Like, it takes more muscles to
frown.
than to smile. So
Thinks of it anatomically, but I'm just gonna go with it. Yeah.
I mean, we're probably gonna have to go look at some journals and articles, but yeah. But yeah, like, why do you forgive? Honestly, I feel like that's a very, very important question that you should ask yourself every time, which is to, like, why do you forgive people in the first place? Like, what did that person do wrong? Is it so bad that you can't really turn it around or something? So
I guess that could start with how does it align with your boundaries? To
Yeah.
start with, yeah.
yeah, I feel like boundaries is a very important thing also. So, first of all, why do you forgive? For me, it's definitely because, I don't want to spend all that energy hating, holding grudges. There's so much better things to do, So,
Additionally, it's also an outlet, a healthy one, definitely. So instead of say brushing it off, as some people might misinterpret it as forgiveness as well, but without the actual forgiveness of the process in itself, then you are also indirectly keeping it in. So it's really no different than holding the grudge and vengeance because you really didn't let it out. And that human mind really works in that manner. It's like how you go to bed but you can't sleep because you have that certain assignment that you can kind of finish but you just kind of put it off. That's sort of the same concept, you know, like you could have forgiven him but you haven't, and sometimes it like kind of haunts you back in a guilt sense, you know, that sort
it's
of
at the
thing.
back of your head. You know, it
Yeah,
keeps
exactly.
bugging you at the back of your head.
What a bugger.
I mean, first of all, if we are talking about forgiveness, there are two types of forgiveness: forgiveness for people and forgiveness for yourself.
Oh yeah.
But first of all, we're going to talk about forgiveness for other people.
For other people.
Yeah. So the thing is, also another thing, you have to forgive because a lot of times you think it's like that, but in reality, there are a lot of other back stories, side stories that go into it. So I feel like understanding is something that goes into forgiveness as well. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's everyone has their own stories, and then
Yeah.
we're all background characters of each other's main
Yes.
story protagonists.
Yes, that's actually very true. So this leads us to the next topic, to the next subtopic, which is when should you forgive? Like what do you allow, what can you forgive and what you can't forgive?
Oh yeah.
So do you want to go first?
Going
Just
back
like
to, yeah,
some examples lah.
Going to some example, okay, I think it goes back again to boundaries. So your boundaries is a benchmark for yourself because everyone has difference in what they can allow and what they don't.
Yeah.
So it's perfectly cool and fine as long as you find that perfect harmony as well. So one good example for me maybe is I appreciate if people can communicate with me. So let's say you are being late for a meeting
Yeah.
that we have that agreed upon, you know. So let's say you could have told me either the night before or even say maybe 2 to 3 hours earlier than
Yeah,
the
at
initial
least.
state, especially if you were to travel to somewhere. So
Mhm.
I really appreciate it, and at those times I can find it hard to say that you didn't inform me, and that could be a bit of a struggle for me personally, and that's my personal boundary because
Yeah.
I've always tell people, please communicate with me, we'll put it on the table, I won't be angry, I'm that kind of person.
Yeah.
So that's like an example of what you can or cannot forgive. Although we say cannot, eventually you'll still find at a point to say, I really can't control this, I forgive you, but whether or not you want to continue a certain situation, because you still have to stand your ground and say, I forgive you and I appreciate that you discontinue this behavior. Yeah, because you still need to protect yourself in that certain manner, though the forgiveness is for you because I trust you enough that, and I put in a good faith that it was not in
It was
in
not
a-
abuse.
it was not abuse or in poor intention,
Mm.
and that for me that I can move on and not bother for it anymore. What about you?
But then yeah, it same lah. I when it comes to this type of things, also I really am the kind of person who's like, I won't get mad at you. Like I'm not the kind of person who can get mad at you that easily unless you really fucked up. But yeah, if anything, tell me and then we can discuss. Like I'm very open to it. As long as it's not something that you break the law. As long as you don't kill somebody, then it's all cool.
Also, you can hurt someone, like you don't need to kill them only.
I mean, you don't hurt someone also lah. And by hurting, I mean physically. Mentally, that one is something that you can't really like control in a way. Like
It's
that's
a gray
something-
area we can discuss.
there's a error for there's a
Margin
space,
of error.
the margin of error. But then like
We have to discuss that. Yeah.
generally, you know. But then another thing that I cannot stand is
Yeah.
family. One very, very particular thing that I cannot stand is people talking bad about my family.
Your family or their?
My family.
I see.
My family. Like, especially if you are like close friends to me, or if like you're my boyfriend, which one of my ex did, like, kind of insulted my mom in a way, indirectly. He probably didn't mean it, but then it still came off the wrong way. So yeah, that's something that I do not like, because for me, you can insult me, like I'm fine, I'm chill, but bro, you insult my family, you're dead.
You insult one of us, you insult all of us.
Yeah, like that's how the dynamic works.
For your family lah, yeah.
Yeah, for a
I
family.
mean that's really fair, honestly.
But then generally I can forgive. I think I'm more of a forgiving person compared to like the general average, yeah.
It really comes to a certain point in your life where you just rather forgive. It takes really less of an energy to really hold it in, process it. I mean, it comes with practice also. Forgiving is also like an art, when with practice it comes easier. In Mandarin there's a saying 大人有大量. So as you grow, sometimes you've seen enough and you know that things are just really beyond
you see
your
the
control.
bigger picture.
And you've also probably been in situations where you also want forgiveness from the other person
definitely.
for stuff that you really had no control over, or maybe it was a moment of misjudgment, a moment of mistake, a moment of stupidity. Young, dumb, broke, they say. and being in those shoes, you also see that forgiveness really does come a little bit easier as you go along.
Yeah, I guess this would follow up with how do you forgive?
Yeah. How, my
For
dear?
me, hey. For me, generally, okay, one very classic, one very, not to say classic, but then normal at voting. It's normal at voting. When I'm angry, you don't talk to me. You just leave me alone, let me sleep it off, then I'll cool down and just let it go. That's it. And more often, I don't hold grudges. But I wouldn't say completely forgiven, but then I wouldn't say I hold a grudge to it either. But it's just, okay, fine. You do you, I do me. That's it. But then the first thing when it comes to forgiving, or just at least not holding a grudge, comes from being able to understand. Like, you don't just think of your own perspective. Take other people's perspective into consideration. Try to stay as neutral as you can. But of course, that's not something that comes easily. It's actually very hard. Unless you are the kind of person who's very open. If you're very open, then you'll be able to consider like, okay, maybe that person was thinking like this in the moment of time. Yeah. For me, start from open-mindedness. You learn to forgive from being open-minded. Also, like you mentioned, you learn to forgive from experiencing it yourself.
Yes, you do. And that's something that just happens along the way. So it makes it a little bit better to understand. Like how in geometry class, whatever it's on the textbook and whatever the teacher said doesn't work until you actually draw it out, or the teachers actually show you, okay, so this is how you make a cone out of the paper, those sort of stuff. So it really comes in, hands-on muscle memory sort of thing.
Also, it comes from a lot of practice as well.
And it comes from time, in a sense, like time for yourself to heal from it, because at times it can be difficult to forgive someone. And definitely. It always comes back down to the benchmark of your personal boundary, because at times there will always be people, even your closest and most cherished and loved ones, who will step over that boundary, and it's not okay to step over boundaries for whatever it means, because boundaries are there to protect you. So as long as you get the full enough picture, because you can't get the full picture in the entirety, but the full enough picture to say that as long as I'm ready to forgive, you can go for it. And if you're not ready, then it's okay as well. So you take your time. You don't shut off all doors by all means, because that's probably not something you want personally.
Definitely.
And it might be something that will hurt you back in the future.
Yeah.
you never honestly you never know. And even when it comes to a situation where you really have to block off that person, you always have the option to, and that's
Mhm.
also your right as a person, and you do you.
Yeah. Basically, know your own boundaries.
Know your boundaries.
Yeah. Then you'll be able to differentiate between what you can forgive and what you can't.
You know, like Sun Tzu, about know yourself and know your enemy. But it's like know yourself and know whoever steps over your boundary.
Yeah.
That
That's
pretty much rhymes.
hey, rapper, outright. But then, you know, sometimes there are things that you can't really forgive.
Yeah.
But you don't hold a grudge.
Mm.
There's a difference, you know, between forgiving and holding a grudge. Holding a grudge, honestly speaking, holding a grudge really takes a lot more energy than forgiving.
It
Like
does.
not being able to forgive someone, because you are using all your energy to go and
Hold
on to that grudge, and it's just so tiring.
The grudge is you can think of it the grudge as a fire that burns continuously, like Greek fire. It never stops burning.
Yep.
And when you hold on to something that hurts you, it either hurts you more, or
Yep.
that you're just really tired because you're holding on to another,
Another
harmful, little
another
object.
toxic.
Another toxic.
Yeah.
If you want to put it that way.
But for me,
Yeah.
personally, I do have things that I still can't forgive.
Would you like to share it?
There's one very particular thing that I really can't forgive. My secondary school mates.
All right.
Have I told you? I think I have told you about the part where I was actually the most active, and not to say I have very good leadership skills, but I was most active, most experienced
Right.
in the administrative work for the co-curriculum club thingy.
Yep.
But then because of the grudge they had against me, they decided to vote me out. And then until today, I don't hold a grudge, you know. I don't hold a grudge. But then I can never forgive them for that.
Indeed.
I can never forgive them for what they did.
I can feel you. I can feel you.
Yeah, but then nevertheless you think of it as like, you know, just
It's part of growth.
it's part of growth.
It wasn't okay for them. It wasn't very nice, honestly.
Yeah, it wasn't professional. Like, yeah, sure, at that age you are just a secondary school student, but come on, seriously?
You could have adult yourself up.
Yeah, like, hello. I mean, understandable, which is that not every parent taught their kids that you need to be responsible already. Even though you're only 16 or 17 at the time, you are going out to the real world, especially at 17. When you cross 17, you're already out in the world. A lot of us would be leaving home to go to other states or other countries to study. That's the start of it. So it's like at the age of 17, you need to start learning what responsibility is, what professionalism is. You are stepping into the adult world. Like, okay, some people might say, oh, 18 to 21 is the
Honeymoon.
transition, you know. But the earlier you start, the more you know. The more you can practice, you know.
I think that's something we can discuss in another episode. Its own responsibilities, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a good topic.
Mm-hmm. But then also, like, we also have forgiveness for ourselves, which we can also make it for another topic, for another episode next time. Anyways, in the meantime, in TF, we judge.
See you around, buddy.